In 1933, he was visited by an astonished forester who notified him of an order that lighting fires outdoors was forbidden for fear of endangering this natural forest. It was the first time the forester told him naively that he had ever seen a forest grow of its own accord. In 1935, a whole delegation from the authorities arrived to look at the natural forest. There was a high-ranking official from the forestry department, an elected member of parliament, technical experts, and there was a great deal of talk. It was decided something must be done. Fortunately, nobody did anything except for the one good thing. The forest was placed under government protection and charcoal burning was prohibited. For it was really quite impossible not to be enchanted by the beauty of these young, healthy trees, and they had even managed to cast their spell over the Member of Parliament. One of the senior foresters in the delegation was a friend of mine, and I explained the mystery to him. The following week, we both set out to find Elzéard Bouffier. He was hard at work, about 20 kilometers from where the official inspection had taken place. I was right about my friend the forester. He was able to appreciate all he saw. I offered the eggs I had brought as a present. We all shared our lunch and spent several hours in silent contemplation of the landscape. The slopes we had climbed on our way up were covered with tall trees 4 times our own height. I remembered how it had looked in 1913, desolate, but quiet, regular work, brisk mountain air, the simple life, and above all, peace of mind, had endowed this old man with almost awe-inspiring health. He was one of God's athletes. I wondered how many more hectares he would cover with trees. Before we took our leave, my friend made one small suggestion about the kinds of tree which seemed to suit the soil here. He did not press the point, for the simple reason, he told me afterwards, that this man knows more about it than I do. The idea must have been turning over in his mind, for after we had walked for an hour, he added, he knows more about it than anyone else in the world. He's found a perfect way to be happy. Thanks to this forester, not only the forest, but the happiness of Elzéard Bouffier were protected. The only serious danger to his work occurred during the Second World War. Cars being powered by wood-burning generators. There was never enough wood. So cutting was begun among the oaks of 1910, but they were so far from transportation routes that the whole enterprise proved financially unsound. It was abandoned. The shepherd knew nothing of all this. He was 30 kilometers away, quietly going about his business, ignoring the War of '39 just as he had ignored it in 1914. I saw Elzéard Bouffier for the last time in June 1945. He was then 87. Again I had set out on the road to those barren moors. But now, in spite of the dislocation left behind by the war, there was a bus which ran from the Durance Valley up into the mountains. I decided it must be because of this relatively speedy means of transport that I could not recognize the places where my walks used to lead me. It took the name of a village to reassure me that I really was in that region that had once been desolate and abandoned. The bus dropped me at Vergon. In 1913, this hamlet of no more than a dozen houses had 3 inhabitants, wild creatures who hated each other, who set snares to make a living. They were people without hope. Now everything was different, even the air itself. Instead of the harsh, dry winds of the past, there was a gentle breeze full of fragrance. From the mountain tops came a sound like rushing water. It was the wind rustling through the forest. And then, even more astonishing, I heard another sound of water. I saw that they had built a fountain that was splashing merrily. And beside it, what I found most touching, someone had planted a linden tree, the perfect symbol of rebirth. Moreover, Verdun showed signs of the kind of labor that only hope can inspire. So hope had been restored. Ruins had been cleared and crumbling walls torn down. The new houses, freshly rough-cast, stood in kitchen gardens where flowers and vegetables grew in orderly confusion. Roses and cabbages, snapdragons and leeks, celery and anemones. It had become a place where one would want to live. From this point, I continued on foot. The war had not been over long enough for life to reach full bloom, but Lazarus had emerged from the tomb. On the lower slopes of the mountain, I could see small fields of young barley and rye, and down in the narrow valleys, the meadows were green. It has taken only 8 years since then for the whole countryside to glow with health and prosperity. Where I had seen ruins in 1913, there now stand clean, freshly plastered farmhouses, evidence of happy, comfortable lives. Dry springs fed by snows and rains, now conserved by the forest, have begun to flow again. In the maple groves, each farm has its fountain brimming over onto carpets of fresh mint. Bit by bit, the villages have been rebuilt. People have come to settle from down in the plains where land is expensive. They have brought youth, life, and the spirit of adventure. On the roads, one meets people glowing with health, and boys and girls laughing as they enjoy their rustic pleasures. Counting those who lived here before, quite changed by their life in gentle surroundings, and including the newcomers, more than 10,000 people owe their happiness to Elzéard Bouffier. When I think that one man, one body, and one spirit was enough to turn a desert into the land of Canaan, I find after all that a man's destiny can be truly wonderful. But when I consider the passionate determination, the unfailing generosity of spirit it took to achieve this end, I'm filled with admiration for this old, unlearned peasant who was able to complete a task worthy of God. Elzéard Bouffier died peacefully in Banon in 1947.